Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new on my channel, then welcome. Now today's video is going to be another to buy or not to buy. I have not done one of those in such a long time, I almost forgot about them. But then I saw the Revolution Pro eyeshadow palette and I was just really excited to try this because, as we all know, Makeup Revolution is a very affordable makeup brand and a lot of people really like their products. Now, when I was still living in the UK, I did try a fair few of their products, and to be honest, I didn't really like them at all. I felt like you kind of get what you pay for, so you pay very little, and so I didn't really feel like the quality was anything to write home about either. Now that they have released their Revolution Pro series and they have also released their skincare line, I was just very interested and intrigued by all of their products, and I wanted to see whether there actually is a difference in the quality. This is not the first time that I'm using this palette. I have played around with it before. I didn't want to do a first impressions. I wanted to do a review because I feel like those are much more helpful. So yeah, this is what we're doing. We're going to test out this palette today. If you are new to this series, basically what I do is I kind of talk about the palette a bit before going into the demonstration part. I do some swatches and then I go into that tutorial bit, and then there's also kind of like this wear test. So I will come back in the evening or at the end of the day and kind of show you how the shadows are looking like. So without me dragging this intro on any longer, let's just dive into this palette. Now this palette consists of 18 shadows which all weigh 0.03 ounces or 0.8 grams, which all comes together to 14.4 grams. 17 of the shadows are pressed eyeshadows, but there is one that is a baked eyeshadow, and I'm pretty sure that it's the shade Element. Most of the shades in this palette are matte, but there are 4 shimmery shades in here as well. So the shimmery shades are Ocean, Volcano, Treasure and New Planet. Reading the ingredients list on the back of the palette, there is no talc mentioned in here, but when you look at the website, it does contain talc in the ingredients list. So I'm kind of confused as to which one is the true one, but something tells me that the one with talc in there is the right one, because most likely, especially if they are kind of more affordable palettes, they do tend to use talc in there. It's not really something that I mind, but I just wanted to let you know in case that is something that is important to you. Other than that, the palette is cruelty free. I tried to find out whether this palette is also vegan, but I could not find an answer to that anywhere, so I'm thinking that it isn't. Lastly, because Revolution Pro is a UK brand, I'm not too sure whether you will be able to get this in the States, but in the UK this palette retails for £8, and if you want to order it from Beauty Bay, it is €7.75. That is all the palette details that I have for you, so now let's jump into the swatches. Okay, so let's just dive straight into this palette. I don't have anything on my face except moisturizer, and I have prepped my eyes, which means that I have applied some of the Catrice Camouflage Cream Concealer in the shade Rosy Sand underneath my eyes, and I also did apply the Maybelline Fit Me Concealer in the shade number 10, and I went over it with the Wet n Wild Photofocus pressed powder in the shade Warm Light. But I do want to try something different this time. I am going to apply the NYX High Definition Eyeshadow Base on one eye, and then the other I will just leave with the concealer and the powder, and I want to see how much this actually affects the quality of the eyeshadow, how much more you can get out of these shadows with the help of an eyeshadow primer. So as I already said, I have played around with this palette a bit, but of course not with all of the shades. So I'm going to dip into some of those that I haven't used yet. I think I'm going to start off with the shade Timeless, which looks like a very nice transition color. I'm going to take it on a fluffy brush. This is the Wet n Wild P20, and I'm going to start putting that all over my upper crease area. I can say this much, all of the shadows that I have tried so far have had really nice pigmentation. They are very buildable, but they also pack quite a punch even on the initial application. and they are very easy to blend out. I'm just very curious to see how the other shimmery shades perform, because the ones that I have tried, let's just say, funnily enough, I prefer the mattes so far. Let's try on the side with the no eye primer, just the concealer and powder. Yeah, it is still pigmented, definitely. It is pigmented. It's just a lot softer, which, I mean, is what was to be expected anyway, because with a more sticky base, or more slightly sticky base, the shadows tend to be more vibrant, but they also kind of tend to grab on the eye a bit more. So blending them out takes a bit more work, in my opinion at least. Okay, next up I want to take this darker brown down at the bottom here. This is called Here We Go. I'm taking this on the Wet n Wild P15 brush. Actually, I'm going to take a smaller brush for this one. I'm taking the Wet n Wild P10 to apply the shade Here We Go into my inner corner. Buffing over the edges with the previous brush. And I'm going back in with the brush that we used in the outer V. I don't know, so far they are blending very nicely. The pigmentation is definitely there. It's definitely a huge improvement comparing them to the Makeup Revolution shadows, at least in my opinion. I never really was a fan of that brand and their products because they were just kind of substandard in my opinion. I know that they are ridiculously affordable, and I guess that's also kind of why the quality wasn't as high as it could be. But I don't know, it just kind of seems like a waste of money to me still, to get something for cheap if it's not really a good product, you know? So I much prefer these over the Makeup Revolution eyeshadows. Again, I mean, the pigmentation is not as opaque on the concealer side, but it's still nothing bad. You can absolutely build the color up. It just takes a bit more blending, a bit more laying the color down, but it's nothing bad, definitely. Okay, I first want to take a bit of the shade Treasure and put that on the edges of that brown. I'm going to take it on the top of my finger and just press lightly. Okay, that did very little. I much prefer the mattes in this palette to the shimmery shades. They just kind of feel dry to me. It sticks to my finger, but it doesn't want to stick onto my eyeball. That's the situation that we're having. So I really have to like massage the shade in almost. There's this patch in the center, which kind of, it's just like the layer. I'm sure you've seen eyeshadows that do that. You almost have to like scrape the layer off. I don't know, I don't understand this shadow. Okay, yeah, and it's crumbly. This one is definitely crumbly. I'm going to spritz the BH Cosmetics No. 4 brush with the MAC Fix Plus. Oh yeah, it definitely works now. Just wet the brush and it will all be fine. Okay, I'm going to take the previous brush that we used to lay down the brown color, and I'm just going to kind of stamp over the edges of that brown. I'm going to take a bit more of the shade Here We Go, the brown shade that we put down, because this part seems a bit dodgy right now. Okay, and now I want to dig into the shade Element, which is probably one of the coolest shades in the palette. So I'm once again first going to try it on my finger. It is depositing more pigment. The brush is still a tiny bit wet. I'm going to turn it over on the other side and I'm going to take the shade Element. It is definitely crumbling on my cheeks, but it is also enhancing the pigmentation, definitely, using it with a wet brush. And once again, I'm going back in with the brown. Well, not taking any more of the shade, but just going over with the brush that we used to lay down the brown. I'm going to take a bit of the shade Midnight. It's not really like a pure true black, but I want to see how it performs. I'm taking a Zoeva 322 brush and I'm just going to start stamping it. Oh well, it is definitely pigmented and even goes over the shimmery shade. Again, going back in with the brown brush, and I just want to soften that edge. I'm taking a bit more of the shade Here We Go, the brown shade, just to mix it in with the black. And doing the same thing on the other side. I'm going to clean up underneath my eyes, finish the rest of my face, and then we will come back here to finish the lower lash line. Okay, so we are back. The rest of the face makeup is on. As always, if you want to see what I used on my face, then you can check the description box. All the makeup details will be listed there. Let's start with the shade Timeless yet again, and just put that all over the lower lash line. Turning the brush over and just fluffing over the outermost edges. Taking again the darker brown shade called Here We Go, and I'm going to put that even closer to my lash line. Taking the initial fluffy crease brush and just fluffing over the edges. I'm first going to apply some highlights as well. I'm going to use the lightest one in the palette, which is called Pocket Watch, and it's a matte white shade, and also underneath my brows. I want to try something. It might absolutely ruin this look, but let's see. I'm going to try and apply the shade Ocean, which is the first thing that kind of draws your eye to this palette. I'm going to try and put that on the bottom lash line a bit. I'm going to use the same pencil brush that I just used to highlight my inner corners. Well, it is applying the shade, but I think you would definitely be better off with a white brush yet again. I don't think this will tie in with the look in any way, so I'm just going to get rid of it. Now, because this palette doesn't have a shimmery highlighting shade, I'm just going to use the same highlighters that I applied on my face. I'm going to take the Becca Shimmering Skin Perfect in the shade Opal, and going to put that in my inner corners to emphasize the inner corner even more, and also cover up the mess that I made with that blue shade. I'm actually going to skip falsies today because I want to give my eyes a break. I know that maybe you guys don't even know this, but every single time I apply falsies or wear falsies, I have to nurse my eyes back to health for like the next 3 to 4 days. They take such a toll on my eyes that they are always very red, very irritated. So I just kind of have to give them time to go back to their normal state. But yeah, I'm going to skip that step today and just apply some mascara and a lip, and then I will come back here to give you my semi-final thoughts. Okay, so this is what the makeup looks like at the moment. It is currently almost 4:30. We will see how well the eyeshadows hold up and whether there are any differences in the longevity of the eyeshadows on this side versus this side, because this side is the one where we have the eyeshadow primer on as well. At the moment, I can't really say anything too negative about this. I feel like the shadows blended nicely. I feel like they were pigmented, they were easy to work with, except the shimmery shades. The shade Treasure, for instance, that we tried to put on the outside of the Element shade. Yeah, I wasn't really a fan. I still think that the shimmery shades are not as good as the matte shades. You can work with the shimmery shades, absolutely. Using a wet brush, as you saw, makes a huge difference. So there are ways that you can get the full pigment out of those shadows as well. For the amount of money and the quality that you get, I'd say it's quite well balanced, and I way prefer these shadows over the Makeup Revolution shadows. As I said, it is currently around 4:30, so I will come back in here at the end of the day to see what the eyeshadows are looking like. So I will see you guys in a few hours. It is currently midnight. If I remember correctly, I finished my makeup at around 4:30 p.m. So that means that my makeup has been on almost exactly 8 hours. The eyeshadows are still on my eyes However, I feel like the eyeshadows are much more kind of pigmented on this side than they are on this side, because the matte shades haven't really faded around the edges as much. The shimmery shades are kind of similar. They are pretty much the same on both sides, except that again, I feel like this side with the eye primer is a bit more vibrant. Oh, and also the black shade that I traced along my lash line is much more pronounced on this side, where we have the eye primer down, versus this side where it's again slightly more faded. As a conclusion, I would say that I think this palette is worth the money because the price point is so affordable, and you do get 18 shadows in here, most of which are really good. Okay, the shimmery shades you do have to work with a bit more to get that true color payoff, but I mean, all in all, it's a very nice palette. It's blendable, it's buildable, it's pigmented. I think it's great value for money. So if you are looking at this palette and considering whether it is worth to buy or not, I'd say go for it. That is all that I wanted to say about this palette. Now I'm very much looking forward to washing this makeup off and going to bed. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know if you would be interested in getting this palette and how you think it performed. Also, let me know if you have any other products by Revolution Pro. This is the first thing that I've tried from them so far, and I'm very interested in knowing how their other products perform. So if you have any experience with that, let me know in the comment section, as always. If you enjoyed this video, then please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And other than that, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!